Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing today. My main concern is that the Democrats don't understand the monster they have created. Goldman Sachs' new $1.2 trillion score of this bill should scare every single American, regardless of party. I fear that there has been an over-subsidization of a market that is not capable of producing the intended result. I know it is hard for some in Congress to wrap their heads around $1.2 trillion, but that kind of subsidization involves massive global input to produce the needed output, and it is concerning that Democrats didn't understand what would have happened when you unleashed this type of impact on the marketplace. To think that the Chinese Communist Party would not benefit from this poorly formed policy is both naive and foolish, especially in the highly integrated global marketplace that we see today. I see a lot of talking about both sides of our mouth from the administration and my Democrat colleagues. My Democrat colleagues say that they want to drive energy costs down and look for cleaner solutions. Guess what? I do too. But to spend $1.2 trillion in taxpayer money to fund green energy while also attacking the oil and natural gas industry will only drive energy costs up. The unintended consequences of these actions will have cons that far outweigh the pros. Driving investment out of less expensive, reliable, traditional energy into expensive renewables will further drive up costs, creating energy poverty across this great nation. Time and time again, this administration has put the cart before the horse on extreme policy without thinking about the unintended consequences. It will be a tough road ahead, and I beg the question, how will my Democrat colleagues explain to their voters why energy prices go up drastically in the next decade due to poor decision-making here in this committee? Ronald Reagan once said, if you want more of something, subsidize it. If you want less of something, tax it. We do not know what the true American consumption of renewable energy is. An unprecedented $1.2 trillion in subsidies for renewable energy is both reckless and wasteful. This administration, with the help of Congress, has created an apocalyptic market distortion in our energy markets that will have a devastating effect on the American people who rely on less expensive traditional energy. Mr. Jen, I, like every Republican that I know, is an all-of-the-above energy supply individual and representative here in Congress. I believe that there is a place in the market for renewables to compete on a level playing field with the traditional energy sources. That being said, can you tell us what the unintended consequences of the IRA are in respect to the unprecedented subsidization of green energy and what the means of the economics of the energy industry are and the provisions in the IRA inflationary?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. And you're right. You're putting your thumb on the scale more towards renewable, unreliable sources of energy over a longer period of time, and there should be a level playing field for all energy sources. So whatever is going to be profitable, that means it's best for the American people in the process as well. And so this sort of industrial policy does not allow for there to be more economic growth, prosperity, and there's a lot of talk today about, well, there'll be a transition. The transitions are best based on market forces, not based on government direction and mandates. That's taken straight out of what communist countries like China do, not what America should do based on free market capitalism that is the best path to let people prosper. We need to get back on that path, and this is what the Inflation Reduction Act leads us more towards, direction of the economy instead of letting markets work.
Thank you. Mr. Stein, what do these massive subsidies mean for our energy costs and our grid security as these hand-picked winners in the IRA are untested as reliable sources?
Well, that's a key, is reliability. Ultimately, unreliable sources increase costs to the electricity grid as a whole. And that's a key that wind and solar look very cheap at the specific turbine because when the wind blows, it's very cheap. But grid-wide, you have to pay more for transmission. You have to build extra wind turbines for backup. You have to build gas plants for backup. The overall cost to the grid increases electricity costs. And you see that around the world. You see that in California. You've seen that in Germany, in Denmark, in parts of Australia. Higher renewables penetrations means higher.
Mr. Stein, if I may, and thank you so much for your response, but I'm going to give a great example of that. The largest, we think of Google being a green a company, their largest or near largest data server farm in the world since 25 miles to the east of Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1,000 yards from a gas-fired / coal-fired energy production facility. And when asked why they're there, they need reliable energy. Reliable energy. So for all the talk that my colleagues across the aisle are talking about, this is not reliable energy. The fossil fuel industry has always provided that and will continue to do so. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Mr. Higgins is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United States, according to a study out of Brown University, spent $6.2 trillion